And welcome to this new series in the Tech Talk about the imports in academia. Today's topic we're not going to cover the whole import. Just going to cover the import for student courses and enrollment, because I feel that this is the most important import that we can have in academia. And then, first of all, I would like to show you exactly how imports work, right? So in academia, you can enter information in two different ways. One is going to be manually entering by hand, and two is going to be via import, which is more than 90% of the times how you want to get data, because there's a lot of data to enter. Now, if you notice in this screen, I'm showing how how they look like, how those CSV files look like. And the first section in the top, I'm showing what we call an all-in-one file. So you can have in a single file, in a single CSV file, information related to many things, like you can see there, student information, class information, courses information, and enrollment information. So everything is living in a single table or a single CSV file. Or you can use the second method and having individual CSV files. So you can have, for example, instead of in a big file, everything together, you can have the student information on one CSV file, the class and the course information in another CSV file, the enrollment in another CSV file. So it's up to you as an IT or as a center administrator to think about the best way that you can have. In my personal experience, I think that the all-in-one, the first method, is the best, just because you have everything centralized in a single file. So when you get these files, and where these files are coming from, well, the information that are going to be filled in these files are coming from your main student information system, either that is Banner, PeopleSoft, or whatever system you use for your SIS, your student information system. That is where you're going to have some data dumps or data export that are going to be making these CSV files from an academia, then is going to be feeding on these files using a little tool that we call ADX. So for example, I would like to show you a typical file. If you can see, this is a typical Excel file. I'm going to try to zoom in so you can see clearly. So this is a typical file for an example. In this case, as you can see, there are several columns, and it's not that every single column you see there is mandatory, because we have some mandatory fields and some optional fields. Like in this case, for example, you can see that the first name, the last name, the student ID, and the email are going to be mandatory. But in the case of the zip file, for example, that is going to be an extra information about the students that I want to keep for some reason, but in this case, it's not optional. And the same goes with the profile-based information. Let's say that you want to keep a record on the preferred sport for certain students, their preferred courses, things like that. Any profile-based information, you can keep it in academia, and you can import that information from another system like your Banner, PeopleSoft, whatever it is. Like in this case, for example, as you can see, zip, in this case, the column D zip file, the zip information is not mandatory, but in the case of the courses, here F, G, and H, which has the prefix, the code, and the name, that is the course information, and those three are mandatory in the case of the courses. The same with the classes. As you can see, these I, J, and K are the columns related to classes, and you have the section number, the CRN or the code for the class, and the short name, which is typically the longest field in academia. And if you notice right here, the class, since remember that the relationship between class and course is one class can only belong to one specific course, then if you notice, typically in the name of the class, we include the name of the course that this class belongs to. Like in this case, for example, this first class, we include the MAT 110, which is the applied calculus course that this class belongs to. And then we add other fields like the CRN, and this is how we have a unique field for the class. We have the mother's name, which is the course name, and then the class ID, which is the CRN. There's a lot of ways to create this, but as long as they are unique, we should be good. So this is a typical CSV file, and then I'm going to move on because I would like to show you our tool, ADX, the tool that is going to be doing the imports. And more than the picture, I would like to show you the actual tool. I have it open here, and let me bring it, and I hope you can see it. So this is the little tool that you can install to run the imports, okay? So basically this tool, and actually you can find this tool in your Accudemia. If you go to Administration, Advanced, Import, this is where you can find the little tool ADX. If you have permissions, remember that you need to have permissions to access this. If you think you need permissions and you don't see this option, you can always talk to your administrator. But if you go to Administration, Advanced, Import, you're going to have a button to download ADX. Okay? So now basically what do you do with ADX? Let's say that you have your CSV files already set. Everything looks okay. The unique fields are there. The relationships are there. So now what you need to do is you need to search for those files. As you can see here, I'm going to cancel because I already have the file that I need there. But in your case, you can search in your local folders. And then if you hit next, oh, by the way, I need to close the file. Otherwise, it's not going to let me close that. Okay, let me go back. Okay, perfect. I cannot have the file open to use it in ADX. So as you can see here, what we are doing is that we are mapping the columns that we have in the CSV data files against the fields in Accudemia. If you notice right there, you see the first name that you see, the first field there is the column first name that we had in the CSV file. And then we are mapping against the student first name, which is the field that it corresponds in Accudemia. And we are going to do the same for the rest of the fields, as you see the last name, the student ID, the zip, and so on and so forth. Remember that every column you have in your CSV file doesn't need to be mapped if you don't want to. So you can have multiple columns that, let's say you don't want to use it for now. Maybe you have the student address, you have some other fields that you're not going to be using that. So now, as long as you don't map it here, then we're not going to be using that those columns in the CSV files. Okay. So now let's say that you completed the mappings, everything looks okay. When you hit next, then ADX is going to be it's taking a second here. Hang on a second. Oh, it opened in another place. Hang on a second. Where are you? Oh, yeah. So here in the next step, you're going to see that Accudemia is going to be doing some research, testing that the files are correct. If it doesn't show any error, then great. That looks like you're in good shape. And then you can actually see that it's going to show you how many items it found for each one of the items in Accudemia. So, for example, there it found 7 classes, 6 courses, 3 students, and 1 term. Remember that this is a testing CSV file, but basically in your case, it's going to be thousands of students, hundreds of courses. So right here, if you want to preview the information, you could click on any of these. Actually, those are links. You can click on those and you can see the actual data if you want to make sure that, or maybe if it doesn't match with what you think it should be, you can click on that and see the actual data. Then you can click next. And now I would like to show you these options because they are really important. And why is that? For example, if you notice right here, there is an option that says inactivate students not being imported. And why this is really important if you are planning on using this or not. Because if you use this option, let's say that you check this checkbox, what's going to happen is that Accudemia is going to be checking the information that is coming in the CSV file against the information that is already in the system. So those students that are that are not coming in the CSV file but are in the system, then Accudemia is going to inactivate those students because Accudemia is going to think that those students either they are dropout, they left the school, there are some issues with them. So those students are going to get inactivated because they are not in the freshest CSV file. And this is really good because remember that you have a maximum number of students per your license, and you don't want to hit that maximum. Otherwise, it's going to show an error, and then you'll have to do some cleanup. So that is why inactivating the students that are no longer in Accudemia is a good thing, and ADX can help you by using this option. Another way to use this is that maybe you don't want to use this, maybe you don't want ADX to inactivate students, and what you can do is that you can create a column for that you can call active, and then that column, if you put a 1, then the student is going to get active, and then if you put a 0, the student is going to get inactivated. So it's up to you to control the status of the student if you want to go that route. Or you can use this route, and then in the latest CSV file, every student that is in there is going to continue being active. The ones that are not in the latest CSV files are going to get inactive. Okay? And then the other tab is also important, because in this registration is where we say if you want to override the student enrollment with the freshest information. Let's say that one student, John Smith, he changed the major, and now instead of chemistry he's doing math or something like that. Then in the latest CSV file, that information is going to be there. And if I want to override that student enrollment, then I need to use this checkbox. Otherwise, the student is going to stay as is, right? So it's up to you to do that. And the same with the instructor assignment. If you notice on the third checkbox there, the instructors are assigned to different courses, but maybe that assignment could change. If you want to override based on the latest information you get in the CSV file, then you need to check that checkbox. Then whatever that assignment was is going to be replaced with the newest assignment that is coming in the CSV file. Okay, so now the only thing missing is to put a name to the import, save it, and then running that import. Now, there is two ways. Now, I'm not going to save it. I'm going to cancel because I already have that saved, because I would like to show you here what is coming next. So let's say that you completed that process in ADX, right? Is this one, Tech Talk import, I called it. So now it's up to me. If I want to run this by hand, I don't want to do this automatically. You see this button that is here, this green button that says Run Job Now. If I click on that, then the import process is going to start right away, and I can click it as many times as I want to. Or I can do what most codes would do, and then if you notice, there is a schedule that I can enable. And basically what this is going to do is that it's going to be asking the Windows scheduler to run this job, this import, every day at 2 a.m., every week, every Friday, let's say at 8 a.m., however you want it. So if you notice right there, by default, it's set to daily at 2 a.m., but you can change that if you want to. So if I hit OK, then in Windows Scheduler of this machine, then it's going to be written there that I want to run periodically this job. So it's not going to be, I don't have to do anything. The only thing that I need is to have this computer open and running, and then at 2 a.m. every day or 8 a.m. every Friday, however you set that periodicity, then the import job is going to run. And if it fails, you're going to get an email just to let you know what happened with the import. And how do you know? Okay, so I'm going to show you how do you know, because if you come to this tool that says Tools, View Execution Status and Server, then you can see what happened with the import process. So basically what it's going to do, if you click on that, it's going to open your Accudemia, and if you notice, every single row in this list is going to be an import job. If you notice, I have quite a few. You can have less, depends. But in this case, if I click on this completed link, what that is going to do is that is going to give me a detailed information on what happened with the import. If it fails, if it didn't fail, and if it failed, why exactly it failed. Maybe it was because there is some field that need to be unique and it's not unique. Maybe because you are making reference to a student enrollment from a course that doesn't exist. It could be many things. And I'm going to show you a little bit of troubleshooting after a few minutes. But this is basically going to tell you exactly. And right now you see this hasn't failed, so everything is green. We like green, it's good to go. But if there is something in red, then we will need to read and make sure that we take some actions, like fixing that unique field, or maybe a format. Maybe the email format is wrong, and then Accudemia is letting you know that there is something going on. Okay, so basically this is how you click on that. And the other way to get to this screen is in Accudemia itself. If you have the permissions, you can click Administration, Advanced Import, and then in that import, if you notice, there's going to be this really big red button, View Server Execution Status. So if you click on that, it's going to show you every single import and how it ended, how was the process for that import. Okay, so I'm going to go quickly to the PowerPoint here. Oh, no, this is not the one. This one. Then, okay, I showed you this already because I would like to show you now quickly. This is not by all means, this is not a complete list, but I would like to show you what is the cause of the errors that we sometimes get using this import. So typically, when we get an error because of an import is because we violated the formatting or the value that is accepted for some fields. For example, the typical error is that, for example, the email field, we got some values there that are wrong. Maybe there is missing the add file, maybe there's more than a few dots, or there is some formatting issues with that email field. So that could be a violation of formatting, and then that is going to give us an error. Another violation that sometimes happens is with the uniqueness of the ID fields. As I was mentioning, every user has a unique ID, every course has a unique ID, every class has a unique ID. So if it happens that one of the students has multiple IDs or a class has multiple IDs, something like that, then that is going to fail because it needs to be unique because those are ID values from a table. Okay, and also with the relationship. Let's say that you have a class, and then for some reason you have a class that doesn't belong to a single course and it belongs to more than one course, then that is going to trigger an error, and then we will need to fix that because every single class needs to belong to one and only one course. And another violation that I have seen that happens often is the violation of the maximum number of active students that you can have in your account. Remember that per your license, you can have up to 5,000, 20,000, you know, whatever that number is. But if we don't take charge and we inactivate the students that are no longer in the system by using the option in ADX that I showed you, or by using those columns active, those Boolean columns, where you can say whether somebody is going to be active or not, which, by the way, is also useful for courses and classes and everything. If you want to have a class and you want to inactivate it for this term, but maybe next term you're going to be using the same class, then you can use that same Boolean column to say that this class is no longer going to be active for this term. Is really useful. So if you don't do that, if you don't inactivate the students, then the students count is going to be growing until the moment it hits the maximum number of active students you can have in your account, and basically you're going to get an error. So these are the main import issues we can have. There is quite a few more, but I wanted to show you how exactly you do those imports. And I have to tell you that not everybody obviously has access to doing imports. You need to have permissions, administrative permissions, to do this import. Basically, the IT team or some of the IT group is going to be in charge of that, or even the center administrator. And only that, because remember that when you're using ADX, you will need to sign in, obviously, with your user ID, your password. Remember that these user ID and password that you have to use in ADX, they have to be their Accudemia user ID and password. So if you're using single sign-on or any other type of authentication, that is not going to be good to authenticate using ADX. So you're going to be using your user ID, your Accudemia user ID and password, and then you need to put your domain, which could be typically is the name of the school. And then that is going to let you go to ADX, run the import process, save it, schedule those imports, and then that basically is going to run on its own, and it shouldn't give you more issues once you have that everything organized. And we are here to help you if you need any help whatsoever. And if you're having any issues, if you're getting some errors, then please just contact support@accudemia.com, and we're going to be more than happy to walk you through and make sure that everything works as it should. So this is all I have for today. I think that we have covered most of the troubleshooting that we do and how the process works. And it's really important to know it, because even if you're not the IT team, maybe you could use the import to create a group. There is a lot of uses for the import, as long as you talk to your administrator, and then you explain what you need that for, and you get the permissions. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please let me know.